This week on episode 285 of the Cinema Psycho Show, we are closing out 90s dystopian sci-fi cyberpunk month with our good friends Acid Burn and Crash Override. Yes, we are hacking the planet with our review of the 1995 cult classic Hackers, starring Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, and join my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
What you want to do? Want to be hackers, co-crackers, slackers, hanging out with all the chat room yackers, 9 to 5 chilling out, Hewlett Packard, what?
Wow. I didn't expect that at all. Were you practicing that like the whole time? Like we were prepping?
No, the weird thing is that like Weird Al lyrics, even like when I stopped listening to him, have just they stay in my head forever. I'll have Alzheimer's. I won't know my name. I won't know my date of birth. I won't know any family member, but I'll be like, what do you want to do? Where to be hackers? Cracker? Yeah, I'll just like a surgeon,
Gangster's Paradise.
Yeah.
Oh no, Amish Paradise.
Yeah.
Not Gangsters. That's the real song. That's the real song. But we're on episode 285, and this is our final episode of Dystopian Sci-Fi Cyberpunk Month. I hope that you've all loved our picks for Dystopian Sci-Fi Cyberpunk Month.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
But yeah, because Brian, right now there's a chill in the air. There's a couple of dry leaves on the ground. Methinks it's starting to get a bit spooky outside.
I mean, the rise of spooky season. Yes, this is our favorite time of the year. I'd say this is my most favorite time of the year, even above like Christmas time. Like Christmas is fun, but like spooky season is for us.
Yeah, I mean, I showed a lot of restraint. I didn't decorate for Halloween till like halfway through September.
That is restraint for you. I mean, to be fair, your apartment is already 365 days already decked out with shit, like already with spooky crap.
That's true. Yeah.
So I can only imagine what your apartment looks like now because I haven't seen it yet. Which here's a funny thing: as much people like I've known John for years, and like we record a podcast weekly. I've only been to your apartment a couple times, and that's because we do everything remotely. So
and I'm horribly agoraphobic.
And you're horribly agoraphobic.
Yeah, I wear shoe boxes on my feet. I collect them. My fingernails are 13 inches.
I was going to say, you also pee in bottles.
Yeah.
You think that your name is Howard and last name Hughes, and you keep saying quarantine.
Smithers, get into the spruce goose. Right, sir. I said get in.
But so John kind of goes nuts for the Halloween stuff, and it's good because next week, John, where are we going to be next week?
Well, I have this eerie feeling inside of my extremities.
In your cockles?
North and south. Yeah, right in the cockles. That we're going to be up for our second year in a row as big-time guests of the Erie Horror Fest, the premier film podcast of the Erie Horror Fest.
Of Western Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right. Us. The Cinema Psycho Show. We'll be back up at the Erie Horror Fest. If you remember from last year, we were there. We got to interview the Children of the Corn, and boy, oh boy, they've been like cranking out guests the past couple days that I've just been like, holy shit. Like they got Elaine Dietz, who played the demon Pazuzu from the movie The Exorcist. Who else they got, John?
We got Annie from Halloween. I'm so sad that they're supposed to have the voice of Megan from the movie Megan from earlier this year. She had to cancel. That kind of shit happens.
That happens.
But yeah, got George Romero's daughter there because they got the big kickoff
and his
the
wife
Romero
too.
Foundation. Yeah, and the
they just announced it today.
So yeah, tons of people for us to be talking to. And I remember even last year we had a handful of people that were like surprise guests on the show. We had a woman who was like a producer for Tales from the Crypt.
Yes.
And Brian and I were like, yeah, we like masturbate to that show because we love it so very much. So,
I mean, until she talked about working on Batman and Robin, and then we were just like, why?
hey, a paycheck's a paycheck, you know?
But no, she was seriously so nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, I am looking forward to it, especially because we're going to be there a little bit early, so we actually get to like see the stuff on opening night, which we didn't get a chance to last year.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. We're going to definitely post some TikToks and some Instagram reels and be recording
we're
some
gonna
episodes.
Be TikToking like motherfuckers.
We will be TikToking like motherfuckers because that's where all y'all are at.
Yeah.
At least from what I'm seeing. But to close out this month, we wanted to discuss a movie that I think when it all boils down to dystopian sci-fi cyberpunk month, this one kind of is the quintessential one between, I'd say, cheesy as fuck and kind of believable.
It does ride that line. And obviously, again, as Brian said at the top of the show, we're talking about Hackers from 1995.
Talking about Hackers.
Yeah.
I don't think I said it. I think I just said we're ending it. But yeah,
so
we're
a
talking
bunch
about
of hackers.
We're talking about Hackers.
Yeah.
From 1995. A movie that, that I just got to go, whoa. it's a whoa movie. I mean, in preparation for this episode, like I had watched a bunch of reviewers from YouTube, not to like rip them off, just because I don't do that. I like to come up with my own points of views, but I like to see what other people are saying. And with Hackers, you kind of run the gamut where you get people who are on one side saying it's aged like a fine turd and just so utterly stupid and nonsensical and devoid of meaning. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you got people who are like, it's a cult classic. Like, it's a realistic depiction of the hacker lifestyle from that time period.
I mean, so the guy did
You hit both. Like, you hit both things. Have you seen that, John? Like, Red Letter Media did a whole deal where they were like, they had Macaulay Culkin, your favorite guy, who apparently doesn't think we're big enough to be on his show. Fine.
He was polite enough about it.
At least he was polite. But yeah, like he did a whole thing where he went on about, Hackers is like aged like oldie moldy cheese. And I'm just like, it's not that bad, guys.
I have to look that up. I guess what
it's
Macaulay
not
Culkin,
that
Red Letter
bad.
Media
Like,
hackers.
Well, I mean, I'm like, okay, compare this to Johnny Mnemonic. Okay, compare it to that. Compare this to be perfectly honest, Lawnmower Man and Virtuosity are great. So I mean, but like compare it to some of the other ones, like The Net. Remember The Net?
Oh yeah.
So like when you compare it to those movies that are clearly garbage.
Well,
so
but Brian, with the exception of The Net, like you mentioned, like Johnny Mnemonic, Virtuosity, Lawnmower Man, all the other movies we talked about were like, oh no, this is what the future could hold. This is the dystopian nightmare of what technology could lead us to. Hackers is trying to, I mean, it's exaggerating the reality of the world that we're in, but it's trying to be like, oh no, beware, John Q. Citizen and Mary Q. Citizen. These people are out there on the interwebs right now.
Here's the thing, and this is a funny thing that I kind of noticed when watching this movie again, and maybe this is because I'm older, okay? Because when this movie came out in 95, I was 10. John, I think you were also 10 because we're around the same age. Yeah. So, like, we weren't exactly 100% the target audience for this. I think people who were like 13, 14, 15 were. So watching this again, I started to notice that the messaging in this movie is the younger generation has control over this technology, whereas the older generation is slow to understand it, stupid, and ultimately that's their downfall.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I think the 90s were like to what the 60s of like peace, love, and understanding hippies were. Like the 90s almost had their own hippies, but they were based more on cynicism and
Gen Xers.
and rage. Yeah, just like oh, we're the counterculture too, and we're changing the world, but we're doing it 1 megabyte at a time, man.
But it wasn't like a negative thing. Like that's the difference. Like these hackers aren't doing it to be malicious, right? And actually, the malicious one in this movie is the fucking boomer. You know, you're like, that's the deal. Is the one boomer who is knowledgeable about computers. What does he do? He orchestrates a virus that rips off the company for millions of dollars, and then on top of that is okay with capsizing a oil tanker to cover it up, and blames it on young people.
Well, that was only because that little booger-nosed creep got into his his files.
But what I'm saying is, like, think about it. Like, an older generation that is ripping off a system, and instead of taking responsibility for said ripoff of system, blames it and uses the system against young people.
Yeah. And, you know, this kind of...
You get where I'm going, John?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You know, but this kind of reminds me of Dexter, and not just because Johnny Lee Miller was Jordan Chase in season 5.
I forgot that he was Jordan. I mean, I know he's been in stuff. Like, he was also in Dracula 2000.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe Johnny Lee Miller is, I've been in stuff. That should be on his business card.
I've been in stuff, and I married Angelina Jolie for a hot second.
Yeah. Go to my IMDb page. You'll go, oh, yeah, he was in that, too. But is that... in a way that reminds...
That sounds so bad when you say, I married Angelina Jolie. Oh, yeah, he was in that, too.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not saying that he was exploring
we're an explicit podcast, folks. Just want to say that.
Yeah. Is that, you know, Dexter, while only killing bad guys, is still a murderer.
Yeah.
And like these kids, like, while they're just goofing off and having fun, like, they still are disrupting and destroying things. So,
but they're not doing anything malicious. What do they do maliciously?
Well, okay. Well, Brian, what if I took a big giant shit on your kitchen floor when you weren't home? It wasn't malicious per se, but
I'd
you
say
still
taking
had
a big giant shit on my kitchen floor is a malicious act.
I inconvenienced you. You had to clean up my poop. That's what they're basically taking a cyber poop on people. Then they have to clean it up so they can go,
a cyber poop. Cyber poop on people.
Yeah.
I mean, they do to that FBI agent guy. Like, they totally, like, completely destroy that man's life.
Even though he's just doing his job.
But I totally root for the hackers. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a bad person.
Well, we were 10 years old back, and then we're like, yeah, Gia Pets and Surge.
But here's the thing, man. I'm 38 years old rooting for the hackers still. I'm just like, yeah, fuck that guy. He's working for the man. Fuck him. Yeah. No, but I guess for me, like, I see the our main characters in this, the hackers, a group of hackers, as bizarrely optimistic about how this technology can be used for good. And maybe it's because the fact that this is like before our dystopian world that we live in now, where the technology that we thought was for like breaking down borders and, you know, bringing people together is more or less like exposing how horrible people are.
Yeah.
And how isolated we truly are. Like, maybe that is part of why, but like, it's interesting to see that at this time period, amongst people not knowing what the fuck the internet was and how computers work, that they showcased it as a tool for good.
Well, also a tool for those who are very much into the art of computers. Like, even going further back, when you could, back before like Steve Jobs had basically made everything a closed system, you could customize computers and make them to your own specs and everything. So it was very much a hobbyist kind of thing. And in the early days of the internet, like there's that famous clip going around from like Good Morning America where I think it's Katie Couric is like, can somebody tell me what the internet is? Like,
oh yeah, no, I and then Brian Gumbel's like, what's the @ symbol?
Yeah. And it was such a niche thing. It was for very much like people that like were in the know and knew how. But eventually, capitalism wins over everything. And once your mom understands it, then it ceased to be the cool revolutionary thing anymore.
I blame Packard Bell.
Yeah. It'd be like the CBGBs. They're like, you know what? We're doing really good, like with the Ramones and the Clash and everything. But what if we let in the Osmonds and Pat Boone? We'd probably get a hell of a lot more people in here.
It's like, don't do that.
You took away its honor.
Factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive a little bit into this movie. I don't think we need to necessarily go plot point by plot point because there's really only like 2 plots I saw in this movie.
Well, I kept waiting for the plots to happen because
there's plots in this. Okay.
Well, here's a fun story to start things off.
Okay, go ahead and start us off.
To show how old I am is that I didn't see this in the theaters. I don't think I really had any.
Well, you and I were 10. We wouldn't have seen this in the theater.
Right. I was like, I want to go see Casper, or
we want to see
Waterworld.
Casper. We want to see Batman Forever when this came out.
Batman Forever. It's going to be as good as Batman. Oh, never mind.
No.
But my mom rented it from Wegmans in Erie.
Oh, that's right. You guys got Wegmans up there.
Yeah. I don't know why didn't she just drive back to Edinburgh and rent it from one of the local places, but to each their own. But we ended up, the tape got stolen. And no matter how many
hacked,
right? Yeah, no, it was hacked by manual hacking, analog hacking. Somebody like picked it up at the store. And to this day, you will not be able to rationally explain to my mother why the tape was $300. And I've told her again and again, I'm like, Mom, they get these tapes at a much higher cost.
Did she have to pay for it?
Yeah.
So wait a minute, because someone stole it, did she have it at the time that it was stolen?
Right. Yes.
Okay, that's why.
Yeah. And I'm like, but Mom, like video stores get them at a higher price.
They do.
And eventually after like the 12th or 13th fucking rental, then everything is profit.
Yes.
But she's like, but why did I have it? I'm like, okay, you just don't want to listen. You just don't want to hear me.
Just say it's a different tape.
Yeah.
It's made out of stronger material.
Tape. Yeah.
No, that's I'm sorry to say it. That's all you got to say. It's a special tape. It was made out of different material than the other one. Stronger material than that tape that you would buy for $29.99 in 1995. Okay. By the way, that's how much we had to pay for tapes back then.
Mm-hmm.
$30.
But Brian, when I first saw this and now rewatching it, I abstractly know what's going on. But the fuck if I know what the hell they're talking about. Get into the encrypted PCR 922. Well, they got us a bug on the blah, blah, blah. Make sure you use it a flu shot. Oh, yeah. We got to get the algorithm over. It's going into the kernel. Like, the fuck are you talking about?
Well, here's the funny thing. So in the production of this movie, they actually did consult a lot of real hackers.
Yes.
Like real ones. Not talking about like, that 14-year-old in 1995 jacking off his basement, trying to download Gillian Anderson porn hackers. I'm talking legit ones, people who like went to prison for it. So they clearly did their research and did incorporate a lot of language that I think is computer-ish, like kernel is a real thing. I'm not sure if flu shot is one. I'm not sure about some of the other ones. Like there's a scene in this movie where Johnny Lee Miller is talking to Angelina Jolie and saying like, yeah, it's super fast because it has a PCI bus. And I'm like, that's not, what are you fucking talking about? Like that doesn't work.
It's big words that nobody knows.
Yeah. So I have to believe that at some point in the production of this, they must have changed some of maybe those accurate words to garbage talk.
Yeah.
That's what I have to believe. Because everything else in this like feels legit to those hackers. Now, not everything, but a lot of like the characters in this I could see as like, yeah, if I had no prospects of ever getting laid ever and was around computers 100%, I probably would talk like this. But yeah.
But
like
would you rollerblade and skateboard that much?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I mean, I do know that in 95, I definitely wanted to skateboard. Like that was the shit. But that's 10-year-old Brian. That's not, 25-year-old teenager. Which everyone in this movie is a 25 to 30-year-old teenager.
Yeah. I mean, Matthew Lillard might actually be around his age.
Probably. Yeah, this was like one of his first roles.
This and like Serial Mom.
Oh, shit. Yeah, Serial Mom came out before this. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So must have done this one, then he did Serial Mom, then he did this. He had Serial Mom, then he did this movie, and then he did Scream, which that really blew the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem with this movie is that I'm sorry, but the internet and programming and all the stuff, it's not visually interesting. So this movie had to do everything it could to try to make people looking at a computer screen typing in code to be super interesting.
Well, to be fair, they didn't know. I think even the filmmakers themselves didn't exactly understand how the internet worked and how hacking worked. Like, I compare this movie a lot to another movie that has hacking in it. And that's, you remember the movie Swordfish?
Oh, yeah.
With Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
Same sort of premise.
And Halle Berry's boobs.
Halle Berry's boobs. It's really what's memorable about that movie. But like, that movie also features a lot of hacking in it. Hugh Jackman plays like this elite hacker who comes back from prison, and John Travolta kind of like steals him for terrorism. Early 2000s, folks. So but that one shows hacking in a different light, where we are seeing like code and someone like the cutting of it back and forth. That's ramping up kind of the tension in those scenes. And I attribute that honestly to the Matrix.
I would agree with that. The visual style
of the Matrix is what kind of influenced hacking being represented a bit more realistically.
I mean, they do say that like the idea of greatness is that everything that came before you seems superlative, and everything that comes after you copies you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with that. But also, I think that movie actively showed in the process of being like, quick, plug in the blah 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 blah, and then the guy goes on it, types real fast and goes, and hits enter, and then you get an action sequence because of it. This movie has like, Johnny Lee Miller sitting like farting into the couch like on his computer, just going back and forth with what he doesn't realize is Angelina Jolie for what feels like an eternity on coding and stuff. Like, wow, no one will be seated during the Johnny Lee Miller farts on his couch and like tries to outcode someone.
Oh, you're talking about their battle?
Yeah.
Oh,
no. At the very beginning of the movie, like before he knows acid burn is Angelina Jolie.
Oh, yeah. Well, we should probably like talk about the plot a little bit. So it starts off with
easy
Johnny
enough.
Lee Miller. I'll give it a go here. So Johnny Lee Miller plays Dade Murphy, also known as Zero Cool, and we're introduced to him as an 11-year-old boy who basically hacked like the New York Stock Exchange
in like 88. Yeah.
1,507 computer systems and broke the economy at 11 years old. And so like he's not in jail, but he's in the court, and the judge tells him he can't touch a computer till he's 18, and his parents are liable for $45,000, which of course, that's going to like break up the marriage right there because money reasons, can't have the dad in there. And so we flash forward to years later, he's 18. He's the only kid who gets depressed about moving to New York City.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, a city where there's 100 restaurants per person. Oh no.
Like that people who actually like wear the same clothes that I wear. Oh no, you mean fashion is a thing here?
I want to move back to Des Moines, where I'm the only one who's into what I'm into. Yeah,
that probably is where he lived too, Des Moines. Like, why would you want to go back to that? But hey, whatever.
Yeah,
maybe you really liked being the gigantic fish in the tiny pond. But yeah, so as you mentioned, he's farting in his little couch there. And we get our first inclination that he's an elite hacker because he wears sunglasses at night with lights turned off.
Oh my God, so many of them do.
I don't get that. Like, I'm like, that's not cool.
It's like all the characters that you, speaking of the Matrix, all the characters you don't remember their names of from the Matrix movies that are in the background.
Yeah.
You know, blurry next to the green Powerade machine. You're like, they're all that character.
They're all that character. But yeah, he gets his hacking rocks off by hacking a TV station to put on the Outer Limits.
Which, okay,
that's cool.
Okay, yeah.
I guess I gotta remember, like, this is before Netflix.
Yeah,
like this nowadays wouldn't work. Like the idea of I want to watch something on demand. I guess in '95 it's like I have to fucking hack the TV station to be able to do that. And nowadays it's like I just gotta go to Netflix.
But how did he even get any kind of encrypted file with the Outer Limits on it in order to air that?
Because back then everything was tape. Like,
so he somehow got the VCRs to suck in a tape?
No. So this part I actually understood because I went to a college that we were one of the last classes that ran our TV station off of microcart tapes.
Wait, were you tape deck?
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh my God, I thought I was the last of the tape decks.
No. I was DVC Pro tape. That's what we edited one of my first semesters there. We were doing, but like the station I worked at while I was in college, all of our programs, because I was the producer for the show, all of our programs were exported out on DVC Pro tape, and we had to load them up in a microcart. So like this required that someone had to program when these tapes would play out onto VHS tapes. Like not VHS, but just like tape decks. So like this scene, I totally got because I saw a more modernish, I say modern-ish, because by the time I was in college, it was like 2007 and 2006. So like I saw a modernish version of this system and understood that every one of those tapes was a program and that a robot basically grabs a tape, plays it. And that was how it was done pre-digital. So this all made sense to me.
Yeah.
Of he's hacking not the tape decks, he's hacking the robot, he's hacking the program that is grabbing the tapes and putting it in. And I imagine that this is probably one of those things that did come from reality. That was a real story.
Okay. So yeah, there are a couple of things that are grounded in a reality in this
but
universe.
The going back and forth between Acid Burn and now Dade, who's his monk, his handle, not username, handle, because we all thought that was going to be the deal, is Crash Override.
Yeah, everybody's man. Everybody sounds like a Lost Boy from Hook in this movie.
John, I got to ask you, what do you think your hacker handle would be?
As Plunger.
As Plunger.
Yeah.
Plunger.
Yeah. You put me on the spot. I had to think of something real quick.
As Plunger. I think it'd be as with a Z, with Z's. Like that's how you get it to be cool, is as Plunger.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. That sounds hacker-y, right?
Perineum power.
I think I would be called Lord Premier Pro.
Okay.
Because you got like Lord Nikon, which like, all right, that's kind of a cool name, but you're just like ripping off of a camera company. So I use Premiere Pro every day for work, so I'm just gonna be Lord Premier Pro.
Scrote boat. That's what I'd be. Yeah.
That's what Joey's hacker handle should have been. The character in this. So yeah, after a back and forth hack battle at the TV station, we're introduced to Acid Burn, who surprisingly is going to be Angelina Jolie in the next scene.
This movie is like, this reminds me of like the Twilight movies, how nothing happens the entire time. The first like 45 minutes of this movie, and I know with today's movies, I shouldn't be knocking a first act that actually takes time to introduce people. Yeah. But like, I'm like, when are we getting to the fireworks factory?
Well,
like, when's something gonna happen in this movie?
I mean, things do happen, but they happen in almost a different type of movie than what we get at the end. Like the first half of this movie is just Dade Murphy hates Angelina Jolie despite being a kind of stalkery fuck.
He hates her haircut. He
hates her haircut, but loves her lips. We know that because we get a montage shot sequence of MTV clips to say that he loves her lips and wants to fuck her. Okay.
Oh, don't forget the sexy dream sequences.
Oh, well, I'm getting to that, John.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, the first half of this movie is just like Dade hates Angelina Jolie, and but he also at the same time like wants to be with her but hates her. So it's like, I'm gonna do dick things, like make sure that I'm in every one of your classes. Like he literally hacks the school computer and puts himself in every one of her classes to just be a creepy fuck.
Well, I always love the idea that somehow in high school there is that like 500th level English teacher that you only get at like Harvard English classes. But like apparently, this guy was like, you know what? I just want to press upon 15-year-olds the importance of literature, and I'm going to be as obnoxious about it as possible. Like, there's no English teacher in the high school level like this.
No, there's not.
But he's stalking her around. He's setting off the sprinkler system.
Yeah, sprinkler system. And all this is to prove that he has some skills, that he's a quote unquote elite. You're going to hear that a lot, that he's an elite.
He's rocking at least a 6-inch gig. I mean, 6 gig. Yeah. What?
He's back then, a 6 gig was a lot. That was a lot, man. A 6 gigger. Nowadays, you're not elite unless you're rocking at least a 25 terabyte.
Oh man, you couldn't even walk with that.
You gotta have two big ones, two big 25 terabytes, and an M2 chip.
But eventually we get a scene where it's like one of those like weird clubs that 90s TV and movies produce that like I don't think any of these clubs really existed.
Okay, I gotta talk about the club thing here. First of all, and this is pulling from a bunch of reviewers that I saw online. So even though I said like I'd make up my own opinions, this is a common thing that I totally agree with him. Doesn't that club look like the Foot headquarters from Turtles?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Got any cigarettes? Regular or menthol?
Yeah, I know. But like I saw a bunch of people bring up the same point. It 100%. Who is funding this thing, by the way? Who is paying for all of this shit in this hacker headquarters?
And who are these people who have clubs where underagers can come in?
Right.
It doesn't quite make sense.
Like think about it. Someone has to pay for electricity. Someone has to pay for water. Someone has to pay for the gigantor TV screens and pay for the video game system. Like who's paying? Who's bankrolling this hacker club?
Maybe they're hacking like other people's bank accounts to fund what's going on, man.
I don't think so. Because that's too obvious of a thing. And they even call this out in the movie. They're like, yeah, you can't do that because you get the feds on you, man. You got to be smart. So I think having an underground hacking lair where clearly all the hackers have hacked a bunch of banks and Wall Street and paid for this, that would just not work. It wouldn't vibe.
Well, too, it's like this whole movie is a combination of cool and scare. It's for
Cool
people
and
that are
scare,
into this kind of like, that stuff in the mid 90s. Like, oh, look how cool these people are. They can go to these underground clubs and they all rollerblade everywhere. And they're all really good at computer stuff where I'm just kind of learning it. And then the other end is scare is just like 48-year-old couple watching this going, can kids really do that? Oh.
Roller skate? Yes, they can.
Yeah.
It's a terror, I tell you.
But while they're sitting there talking about it, and by nice plug for McDonald's, by the way.
Was there a plug for McDonald's in this?
Well, it's McDonald's fries when they're like, oh man, you ate all my fries. You owe me another pack. And it's clearly McDonald's. Yeah. Which I find odd that it was Coke and Jolt in this movie, but I noticed
Jolt
all the
is
placement.
the drink of the hacker elite.
It is, yes. According to like Turbo and Frisbee or whatever their names are.
It's Razor and Blade.
That's right, yeah. But they're talking to their one friend who's like desperately, he's kind of like the odd man out. Like, he hasn't kind of gotten to the hacking level of everybody
Joey.
else. Yeah. And they're like, you need to do something big, asshole. And that's when he goes against like Globetron Mick Company Financial.
Globetron. Conglomo.
Yeah, Conglomo. Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, that's what I would imagine Conglomo is run by the plague.
But he hacks into them, which leads us to our villain, which is the Indian from Short Circuit. Looks awfully pale, though.
Oh, the 80s were something else.
Yeah.
I just got to say, like, as a kid, I loved Short Circuit. I still love Johnny Five. I'll take Johnny Five any day.
Oh, yeah. Johnny Five kicks ass. Yeah.
Johnny Five kicks ass. Need input. But for fuck's sake, taking Fisher Stevens and putting him in brown face has not aged well at all.
Well,
and
Brian, what were they going to do?
Really bad.
Cast an actual person from India?
Crazy concept. Crazy concept. But then I guess
talking crazy talk.
I guess so. But this is also like the same decade in which like Vasquez from Aliens was also not Hispanic.
Jeanette Goldsmith? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goldsmith.
Yep. Puerto Rican. As Puerto Rican as you get.
Totally as Puerto Rican as you get. Yeah.
James Cameron's like, hey, get in the tanning booth. You're playing a Puerto Rican. But yeah, when we get introduced to our villain, who is
the plague,
has this gigantic plot where he wants somebody to break into his server so he has a fall person.
No.
Okay, all right, yeah.
That is not the plot at all. Okay. Hear me out here. Because I watched this like intently on my porch as my daughter was playing. Okay. Yeah. So I had to do something while we were outside, and I'm like, you're playing with your friend who's in the neighborhood. I'll just watch Hackers. Okay, so here's what I gather the plot is of Plague's plan. Okay, so he's been using a worm, okay, a virus that basically eats up basically transactions.
Superman 3.
Yeah, well, it's Superman 3, and it's also Office Space.
Yeah.
Like it's the exact same thing as Office Space. So like this virus is taking tiny half a penny, like, off of transactions and putting them into a bank account. Okay. It's a common trope. He's ripping off the company he works for. Okay. Now, this was all done, in secret. He had taken all of the files from it and like thrown it into a trash file. All right. And what happened is that Two Cigarette Joey, which that's his hacker name, by the way, because Joey in the one scene where you're talking about when there's talking about, you got to hack the Gibson, he's got 2 cigarettes
and in his own fucking
hands.
name.
But he's got one cigarette in one hand and he's got the other cigarette in the other hand. They're both lit and he's smoking them back and forth.
Yeah.
Like I got to double the cancer.
Everybody else sounds like an American Gladiators, like Turbo and Laser, but he's just like, my name's Joey, and I like smoking cigarettes.
I like smoking cigarettes.
Joey.
I'm Two Siggy. That's his name.
My hacker code name would be not John Wollescroft. That'll throw him off.
Not Joey is what his hacker name should be. But anyway, so like because he gets that pep talk of, oh, you got to hack the Gibson, and they're all like, yeah, jag off, go ahead and hack the Gibson. You can't do it. He uses one of the 4 like common passwords that I guess every boomer uses for their passwords.
Sex,
dildo,
God,
no,
porn, God.
Yeah, God's in there.
Antony Cleopatra,
Password,
Beard of Zeus. I can't remember. Yeah.
One of those was your actual password, wasn't it, John? Not going to tell the audience which one, but
mine is 69, 69, 69, 69. Question mark 69, 69, 69.
Okay. I was going to say yours was the Aristocrats. That's what I figured yours would be.
No, it's my entire Aristocrats routine. My password is like 1,700 characters.
Yeah. So, but anyway, because he's told that he has to hack the Gibson, okay, and how impossible it is, he uses one of those passwords. He gets in, and he just like downloads this garbage file, not thinking it's anything. But the problem is that the plague realizes that a garbage file has been taken, so he concocts a virus as a smokescreen from this. So he concocts the virus just on a whim and targets like the oil tankers in his own company. And he's doing it as a way to kind of throw off the scent that he's been doing something bad with the company and blame it on the hackers.
Oh, okay.
That's what's going on.
You know, now that you explain that, it does seem odd that there wouldn't even be a plot in this movie if this kid hadn't done this inciting incident.
Oh yeah, because that's what I'm saying. They had to like mess with him to get him to do this. But that whole thing is what kind of causes the back half of the movie to occur. We need to explain that like Angelina Jolie and Dade like kind of go on a hacking challenge.
Well, doesn't that happen after they've arrested Two Cigarette Joey?
Well, yeah, they do arrest Two Sig Joey, or not Joey. And yeah, like they decide that they're gonna fuck with the FBI agent in charge. And I'm not talking about Mark Anthony, the singer, because he's in this too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I'm like, holy shit, that's Mark Anthony. And he's playing a young FBI agent who goes undercover with the hackers.
I am an FBI agent.
Classic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like to kind of bury Angelina Jolie's beef with Dade, and also to try to get Dade a date, because you know he ain't ever gonna get a date.
She's hot and he's horny, so let's make it happen. Yeah.
There you go. That's what his friends are trying to do. So they come up with this whole challenge of like, all right, you guys gotta like one up each other in hacking, and we get this really. I actually really like this whole scene, this montage, because it's like one after another of how much you can fuck with this person. Like it starts off.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's basically like starting off with like, let's just see if we can just like take all of his money and like make it so his cards don't work. All right, that's cool. Let's go ahead and like, you know, make it so that he's getting called on by sex perverts.
Yeah.
Which that scene, I crack up. It's like, I just want to put my tongue in your ear. Ew, that's disgusting. And of course, like Fisher Stevens is behind listening to this whole thing, being like, that's my classified.
Yeah, I love how Fisher Stevens kind of looks like poor man's like Wish.com Loki in this.
Well, did you know that Quentin Tarantino was supposed to play that role?
I did. I happened to pop upon that trivia factoid. That adds up.
I was going to say it totally adds up,
because this is also when Tarantino, I think, valued himself an actor as much as a director, and I think Tarantino was the only person in the world that when he saw himself thought he was a 9. It's like, Quentin, I don't mean to be rude, but you look like you should live under a bridge. I'm just, you got to stop thinking you're so damn sexy.
We're just saying that your chin could cut glass.
There's like a picture. It has like him, somebody shot it from like a balcony outside a car, and it's like Quentin Tarantino, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and I think like George Clooney was there. It must have just been them all hanging out. Like, and somebody commented, "Isn't it weird that the person who thinks they're the hottest person in this photo is Quentin Tarantino?" You just get that vibe, you know.
Yeah, because they're all hanging out, be like, check out that chick's feet.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Get sucking those toes, all right?
Yeah. That was probably in his contract. It's like,
so I get to suck on, what's her name? Angie Jolie's toes, all right?
Yeah. No,
we
can't do that.
You don't have any of that. Well, fuck this movie then. I'm not doing it. All right. But yeah, I love the scene where they're just fucking with the FBI agent because it just escalates one after another. Although I do find it very weird that they're doing all this shit out in the fucking public.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
Like,
and this
all
whole
of
thing
it?
is just to pad the runtime. Let's be.
It is.
Yeah.
But it also is like, I guess for me, I like the fact that they kind of wrapped up a story point, like, to some degree. Like, how many movies, John, have we seen where plot threads are like just given and then we never see that thing fucking pay off ever again?
Yeah, that's true. That's
So
more than fair.
like we started off with these people hate each other. Let's bury it and kind of like resolve it to some degree. All right, cool. And then it escalates to, okay, these people actually have to work together to solve the bigger issue. So maybe I'm nostalgic for movies that have some semblance.
This relationship is not going to work. He's just going to be like, what happened to my girlfriend? He's going to go in the alley and she's going to be sucking some stranger's dick off behind a dumpster and be like, kind of Quiznos and go, well, I guess that didn't work out.
You think that's what acid burn would do?
Well, maybe if the guy like told her how much RAM he had, I don't know. You know? She likes it fast.
Jade, you don't understand. He had 8 gigs of RAM.
8 gigs. Who could possibly need that much? Yeah.
It was 8 gigs. You only had 5.
Well, some people think 5 is plenty.
Listen, I'm a grower, not a shower.
When you boot me up, things change.
It's because of my risk architecture.
But can we just talk about how hilariously over the top the people get arrested in this movie?
Oh my God.
So for those people out there who are, and I apologize if you're not a South Park fan, but if you are, you'll recognize this. In the episode where the boys like start downloading music illegally,
yes,
and then the fucking SWAT team rolls in the fucking house with machine guns crashing through windows and stuff. Like, it's basically the end of like Christmas Vacation, where the SWAT team just breaks into the house, like all because of just computer shit. Like, there's one guy who was in the shower and he steps out to a fucking shotgun and fucking air rifle in his face.
I'm just like, this is pre 9/11. So like, this is when we weren't, crazy militarized. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, like the overreaction on law enforcement's part to the hackers. Wow. Just wow. Like, they come in with machine guns. They're just beating the shit out of you. They're just like, hacker scum. Like, okay. It's a little extreme.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that maybe this movie partnered with like internet people to be like, make people afraid to do anything on the internet. Make them think that like, if they enter a porno site that says, are you 18 before you enter? And they say yes, and they're not, their entire family will be murdered and their house burnt to the ground.
I mean, maybe this is what like the RIAA should have done with their commercials. You remember the commercials back in the day when it was like, oh, if you download you wouldn't steal a DVD, would you? You wouldn't steal music, would you?
Yeah.
And it was like, you could go to jail. So like, maybe they should have just had like a scene from Hackers where they just cut like some kid just like using Napster or Causalight and just downloading something, and a bunch of like these people just coming, yeah, motherfucker, what do you got there? I got Gladiator. That's it. Oh, motherfucker, you're going to jail. Prepare to get butt fucked.
Yeah. I just love Russell Crowe. But so, Brian, here's the biggest problem with this movie is that Johnny Lee Miller is the main character, but his arc is completely and utterly missing, and it makes me wonder if the screenwriter didn't understand the basics of screenwriting 101. Because they go, like, all of the hackers realize that, Fisher Stevens, the main villain guy, is trying to frame them for his crimes. And they're like, we need you to hack this Johnny Lee hacker. And he's
gotta
like,
hack Gibson.
He's like, I don't know, man. And it's supposed to be like, he has the conflict of interest because of what happened to his family and all that, but then does it. And it should lead to a big standoff between him and the main villain when he's just nothing more than another character in the finale of this movie.
I can buy that.
And it's just like, well, hasn't this all been leading up for it in terms of screenwriting 101, which this movie fits screenwriting 101. It's not trying to divert anything or be anything like, it's not like David Lynch over here.
No.
It's following the rules that it should come down to like a one-on-one with the bad guy and Johnny Lee Miller, the main character, and he should be like, haha, but I am superior. That's why I was able to do what I did when I was 11, but now I'm doing it for good. But he's just one guy in a fucking phone booth.
Well, I mean, to play devil's advocate with this movie. Okay. The ending is more or less about the hackers working together to stop the plague. Like, that's the whole thing is that you kind of get the vibe that all of these hackers kind of like are in it for themselves. Like, even though they say like hack the planet, like at every turn, they're all kind of doing their own deal. Like, and that's what you get at the beginning when, Johnny Lee Miller is fighting at the TV station remotely with Angelina Jolie. It's like, this is my fucking turf. This is my turf. I just wanted to watch the Outer Limits. Fuck you. Like, they're all in it for themselves. And they all compare each other to themselves. And they're all, like, not working together. Like, at every point, that's the way it is. So, like, I see the arc, even though it starts off being all about Dade, and it kind of drops that one towards the end. It ends up becoming more an arc of how do these characters decide to put their bullshit aside and like actually do good together. So they're working together instead of working separately and comparing each other to each other. So like that's kind of what I saw it as. But you're right to a point. Like, it starts off all about Johnny Lee Miller, and then we abandon that to go for this larger narrative. And we never really get that result. Because the only thing you could say is like his arc is like he has friends now. Well, gets the girl.
Yeah. I got two things on that.
What?
If this is going to be about like teamwork coming together, then I think everybody should have been introduced at the beginning of the movie, not just Johnny Lee Miller.
Well, they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's introduced at the beginning as like a little kid. It's almost like an epilogue, of this is the main character and this is what he did. And everybody else in his life are going to be supporting characters to him. But number two,
I disagree with that. But you go ahead.
Yeah. But number two, if this is about like teamwork makes the dream work, the only reason that they all came together is because all of them were going to go to jail.
Yeah.
So that's not.
But it's a common thing that they have to do. If they don't do it, they all go to jail. And that's lights a fire into their ass.
I don't. You wouldn't see an X-Men movie where it's like, we should all stop Magneto. Nah, I don't want to. Well, if you don't stop Magneto, you're going to go to prison. Let's stop Magneto.
Well, it might not be you go to prison, but it might be like, hey, the world blows up. In this case, if they don't do anything, the plague kind of wins. On top of that, probably big ecological disaster that fucks up the ocean. Yeah. So like, you could say that every superhero movie has that sort of moment. Batman Begins has we're going to poison all of Gotham City, with fear toxin. The X-Men, you bring that up. Magneto's gonna cause a big white fucking cloud that's gonna turn everyone who's on Ellis Island into mutants. So like, there's always those sort of like, we got to get our shit together moments, and I think this has that. Now, you mentioned about Johnny Lee Miller. The one thing I would say that gives us kind of an introduction to all these different characters is that Johnny Lee Miller is us, who are unfamiliar with this world. So we come into this New York, and we come into this world of hackers. So that's kind of where I see he is at. He's a blank canvas, which makes sense because he's kind of a blank canvas in the movie.
But he's good looking.
He's good. He's a good looking blank canvas.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm saying is like, I see him as more like representative of us, the audience, being introduced to all these characters. And that's why he has like the least personality out of everyone in this.
But he's not like the fish out of water. You know, he is like a computer expert as well, maybe even more than anybody else. Like, I felt that the movie tried to use Lorraine Bracco as like, what's going on? What are these words you're using? So that they can fill in the audience.
Well, she's for the over 40 crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's for the, brain cancer.
Yeah. Are you over 40? Do you wear a pantsuit to work? Don't worry, we'll fill you in.
Yeah. Of course, I say that being 38. So it's like, although I will say, people back then looked way older when they were our age. I don't know what it is, but Jesus Christ.
You look at some immigrant children from Ellis Island. They're like 9 years old. They look like they're 47. It's like, oh man, life was hard.
It was hard. It was hard back then. But yeah, I guess that's my thing is like, I do see that there is an arc in this, but it's mostly about like the hackers as a whole. Maybe that's why it's called Hackers and not Zero Cool.
Yeah.
Or Hacker or Zero Cool, like as it is about like all of them collectively, like getting their shit together and doing like something for good. But yeah, I can see where like if you're really attached to Dade, which I don't know why you would be, his arc kind of sucks. Like he gets the girl in the end because of course he was going to get the girl in the end.
And then they drowned each other while fucking underwater.
Yeah, while fucking underwater. Now we mentioned that in this movie, and if you're listening all the way through here, you probably are aware of this. We get one shot of nudity in this.
Boobs.
You get Angelina Jolie's boobs for about half a frame.
Boobs. Yeah. And that's when people like, that's when you were young. You knew how long the refresh rate was when you hit the pause button growing up. So you knew
we're
that,
talking
like,
about VHS, by the way.
Yeah. So you knew when she got to a certain level of zip, that was the time to pause because it would then give you that kind of like blurry, like what's that from Wizard of Oz?
The strobing. It's almost
Technicolor.
Like yeah,
strobing of the red, blue, and green that are like on the boobs. But like if you look closely enough, you could see nipple, and that was good. If you were 11, that was enough. Listen, like there was this movie in Barbed Wire.
Yeah. Barbed Wire, you're freeze framing like almost every scene in that movie. Just boom, 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 freeze frame. But yeah, I mean that's I guess the one claim to fame this movie has is there's a little bit of naked Angelina Jolie for you perverts out there.
And I bet like she went up to the cinematographer and she's like, "You won't be able to see my breasts, right?" And he's like, "Oh,
no, not at all."
Director. And he went, "Yeah, tell her we can't see her nipples. she's doing this business. Who cares if John Voight's a dad? We need to see them luscious nips." What? This is 1995, and the cinematographer went, "Wow, it's weird. You needed to feel the need to point out the year."
It's 1995.
Yeah.
This is how we treat broads. It's the 90s.
I mean, I hate to break it to people, they still treat women that way. But back then it was way worse. Way worse. But yeah, that's Hackers. Dade gets the girl. They make out. Everything's great.
But the ending of this movie is that like Stu from Scream like breaks off from the group. And
It's Stu from Scream.
And Johnny Lee Miller is able to throw the floppy disk, which for our audience, if you don't know what a floppy disk is, I'm surprised you're listening to a podcast from
It's not
from
a
two
double
30-some-year-olds.
It's not a double entendre. It actually was a thing. Like, I mean, you could totally use that, the next time you're like with your significant other, like, I'm going to pull up my floppy disk and put it in your RAM.
Let me
Whatever
download.
gets you off, I don't care.
Yeah. But, Johnny Lee Miller basically code talks him to like go find it in the trash can.
Yeah.
And he goes and he
Hack the
hacks
planet.
on. Yeah. He goes onto like TV on every channel, I guess, and lays out this bizarre, confusing story about a bunch of people that nobody knows or understands after their shows have been interrupted. And this is good enough for everybody to go, yep, open and shut case.
Well, but John, like, this is the whole premise of Johnny Mnemonic, like last week when we talked about that. Like, it's, oh, yes, if I just broadcast all the shit to everybody in one go, then that will completely change the minds of everybody and cause buildings to be lit on fire.
And I look at, 2020 with COVID, and you have the world's premier fucking viral guy, Fauci, going on TV. He's been in his job for like 119 years. And he goes, well, the best thing you can do is avoid contact with people. But if you have to go out to like the grocery store or whatever, put a mask on. And we went, no,
No, Fauci, you're wrong.
So anybody who was watching Stu from Scream break down this elaborate plot of oil tankers and coding and stuff would go, turn it off. Let's go watch porn. Yeah, it would have gone on deaf's ear.
Well, it would have. I mean, here's the thing. I think this is a very different world than our current one of cynicism and fake news. So, like, they just would have, if it was in our world, they would just be like, yeah, no, that sounds like a leftist woke ideology.
This didn't come from Q. I don't believe it.
This didn't come from Q. Q said his name was the plague. What are you talking about?
It's probably just another way for a rapist to get in a women's bathroom. Yeah. I don't shop at Target anymore. It's fucking bullshit. I don't drink Bud Light anymore. Wear Nikes. Man. I think Kid Rock is Q. John F. Kennedy's coming back.
You said John Kennedy's coming back.
That's a big. The fringe side of Q thinks that John Kennedy cloned himself, and he and his son are coming back to be on Trump's side to expose the.
Listen, fan fiction's fan fiction for a reason.
Yeah,
I mean, I love myself some fan fiction too, but that's where it is. That's it. That's where it stops. You know what they should do? They should just take all these things and write a screenplay.
Yeah.
There you go. Because it's fiction. But whatever. We're not a political podcast. But yeah, that's Hackers.
Man, what a product of its time.
It really is.
It's
I
not
love
as much
it.
as the Net, as you mentioned at the top of the episode.
It's not. It's the Net. Well, I think both of these movies have definitely, they age, but I think where Hackers succeeds is that it knows 100% what the fuck it is. Whereas the Net, I think, was trying to like show what technology actually is. Like, it's grounded. It's more grounded, even though it's stupid, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love this movie. Watching it again, I was like, all right, I get why this is a beloved cult film. Because it's the style, the lines in this movie are so classic. Like, all of Matthew Lillard's lines are awesome in this. He steals the show. But even like, from Phantom Freak and Lord and Icon and even Angelina Jolie's, a couple of her lines they're good lines, and like, you're entertained. That's honestly what this movie is. It's entertainment.
Yeah, I would say in 1995. This is kind of my wrap up on it. Like, especially, now we know so much about computers and the information superhighway and all that we can kind of look back and say, oh, I know what they were going for here. And it's amusing at some points. It's spot on in others. It's close in others. But I think in 1995, if you didn't own a home computer, you didn't know anything about computers in general, like, you would be bored to fucking tears watching this movie.
Well, I think that's why this movie didn't do well at the box office. The movie only made $7.5 million off of a $20 million budget. So it really failed.
Too much spent on that skateboard money. That sweet skateboard money.
I mean, someone's got to pay for all those skateboards and the ramps.
It ain't going to be the government.
No, but I just think that I think part of it was yes, people did not know what the fuck a computer was in 95. And I think the other thing too is oversaturation. You got to figure this movie came out in September of 95 when you already had Virtuosity, Johnny Mnemonic, and The Net come out earlier. I think there was oversaturation of this sort of techno movie.
Well, Brian, when did you get your first home computer?
96.
I got end of 97 was when our house got it. It was my sister's big Christmas gift. And the way I saw a computer, and I think everybody did in my house, was like, it's a big toy. It's not the future. It's like, oh, I can look up information on Batman and South Park quotes. Yeah.
Well, we didn't get the internet for a long time. We didn't get the internet until 99. So for me, the computer was more or less, what computer games can I play on it?
That was a big thing too. I think it was an Apple II, because we had a family friend who was very into computers, and he sold us his old one when he got an updated one. And it's what floppy disk games can I play on this? Or can I write poop and fart and fuck and then print it out on the paper that had the little things on the side you had to rip off the little holes? Yeah. You go, I printed out poop and fuck,
Yeah, no, see, we had a Packard Bell. You remember Packard Bell?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were the dirt cheap back then computers that were terrible. My dad, I think, spent $1,700 on the Packard Bell, and it was below bottom of the barrel specs. So it was not very good. And this is I remember this. At the time I was probably around 11, but I remember him getting the thing, and he had pretended to try to know what he was talking about. As most of our parents did. Oh yeah. RAM? And it's got how much RAM? Oh, 500 megahertz.
Gigabit. Gigabit.
Yeah. No, well, they didn't have gigabit back then. But
megabit. Yeah.
Megabit. Oh, well, that's a lot. How much hard drive space? Oh, 250 megabit. Oh, okay. So
that's much better than a killing byte.
Yeah, killing byte. So our parents kind of didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. and were easy prey for computer salesmen at CompUSA. So my dad bought this thing, and he broke the computer and then blamed it on me. Because he said my games destroyed it, and I'm like, no. Remembering what I know, I'm like, no, you went into the BIOS and you fucked with it and caused it to only shoot out 16-bit color. That I had to we literally had to take that computer to a computer store in the town next over, and it took that computer store an entire day to undo what my dad had done to the BIOS.
Woof.
Yeah, and knowing what I know about computers now, I kind of have an idea of what he did, but going into the BIOS of any computer is dangerous territory if you don't know what the hell you're doing. And even I know that. So, but yeah, that's why we didn't get the internet until 99. It's because he had fucked it up so bad. Literally anything I put on that, it would always give me a pop-up saying, you need 256 colors to be able to run this. And I'm like, well, I only have 16. And that's why Math Blaster looks like it's in blood red.
Yeah, it's like a Virtual Boy.
It very much, everything looked like Virtual Boy. I'm not kidding. So, That's my computer experience. That's when I got my first the internet. Oh man, when we got the internet, it was like holy shit. Yeah, but that's my computer experience. But yeah, Hackers. I love this movie. It definitely has some flaws to it, but I'm glad that we used this one as like our last, dystopian sci-fi.
It was a palate
cyberpunk
cleanser.
movie. It's a good palate cleanser because, like, honestly, like I came out of watching Johnny Mnemonic going like, "Wow, this is really bad," and I needed something that was half decent, to cleanse that palate.
Well, I think we kept upping the insanity with these movies. That like it's like
the Digital Dolphin wasn't insane enough.
No, it's like after a Digital Dolphin, like it's like okay, now we need like a digital sorbet,
Yeah, a digital piece of ginger, if you will, if you're a sushi lover. We need something to clear the palate, and I'm glad this was it. So, good talk. So, John, where can they find you at on the internets?
Let's see, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And I'm on like Goodreads and Letterboxd, but I never update it whatsoever.
You're on Goodreads and Letterboxd?
Yeah, but I never do anything with them.
Do you read?
I put all the books, the main books that I want to even mention that I've read on Goodreads, but then when I finish a book, I don't ever put it on there. So
yeah, that's like Letterboxd. I tried to do Letterboxd for the podcast, and I'm like,
right?
Well, every movie we were gonna put on, I'm like, no.
Yeah. It's more work than anything,
Yeah.
And of course, you can find me over on the U and the Tube.
The U and the Tube.
Yeah.
J-Dub's Video Nasties. You can find me at Brian Coddington on the X, formerly Twitter. Where the fuck? We're also on Facebook, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the TikToks for our Gen Z and Millennial folks at Cinema Psycho Show. I've got a lot of good TikTok videos going up there. A lot of clips. We did one most recently on that we pulled from our last episode, where it was a diatribe about the Sophie's Choice between Dina Meyer and Denise Richards from Starship Troopers, and honestly, it's very funny. I had fun cutting that together. But aside from that, we're also on Discord. We have our own Discord channel. You can join us and talk about Hackers and all the other movies from Dystopian Sci-Fi Cyberpunk Month by clicking the link in the description. And you can also reach out to us through email at cinemapsychoshow.com. Be sure to follow us. You can follow us at cinemapsychoshow.com/follow or wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you next time.
Now, if you'll all excuse me, I need to pop on Bing so I can get on the search engine Yahoo so I can check out my LiveJournal account.